Today I'm sharing some of our favorite history books for elementary students who are studying modern times, from about 1850 to present day. Now please note, these are not your typical history books that merely give a bunch of facts and dates to memorize for the test. These are living books. Books that will fire your students' imaginations and touch their emotions and make history come alive for them. Welcome to the Simply Charlotte Mason podcast. I'm Sonia Schaefer. History is about people. It's the stories of people who have lived before we do. And it's about the ideas that governed the choices and decisions they made in life. With a good living history book, those stories and ideas will help your students form a personal relationship with the people and events of the past. The Simply Charlotte Mason curriculum includes many of the time-tested, older living books, but we have also spent many hours looking for and discovering newer books that are just as good. I think you'll find that this list includes both. Now keep in mind that these books are meant for you to read aloud to your elementary students. They'll be at a higher reading level than your young students can probably read for themselves. But your students can comprehend the ideas in these books just fine if you do the reading. All right, let's dive in. Abraham Lincoln by Ingrid and Edgar Dallaire. The Dallaires wrote superb living narratives for younger students. In fact, I like to use this one as an example of what a living book sounds like. And people who are brand new to that concept quickly understand the difference between a dry recitation of facts and a truly living book. It is great to see their eyes light up when I begin reading this one. One page, that's all it takes. It's a wonderful introduction to Abraham Lincoln from his birth deep in the wilderness down in Kentucky, through the end of the Civil War, with malice towards none, with charity to all. It does not mention his assassination. It ends with the idea that he had done what he should do, and he sat down in his rocking chair to rest. The Story of Thomas Edison by Francis M. Perry. The best biographies are written by someone who lived at the same time as the person being written about. They can give first-hand accounts and personal ideas right from the source. And this book is that kind of biography. In fact, it was written in Edison's lifetime. Engaging enough for adults and readable for younger students, it paints a living picture of Edison and his unique ideas. The narrative follows his life from train boy to newspaper publisher to telegraph operator to world-famous inventor. Plus, this is an expanded edition of the story. It includes additional photographs, patent sketches, and personal diary notes to help you get to know the man behind the inventions. That section will be especially captivating if you have a student who's interested in how things work. You'll enjoy this story of one of the most influential inventors who ever lived. Only a Dog, A Story of the Great War by Bertha Whitridge Smith. It's hard to find books about World War I, or any war for that matter, that are appropriate for younger students. But when I read Only a Dog, I knew I had found one of those rare gems. The story is told from the dog's point of view. When his family is targeted by the enemy and disappears, this Irish terrier goes looking for them and ends up in no man's land between the two lines of combat. An English soldier rescues him, and from then on, the dog faithfully stays by his side. Your elementary students will learn about the realities of the Great War, but in a tender, first-person style, somewhat like Black Beauty in tone. Army, as the dog comes to be called, encounters saddened civilians, enemy fire, life in the trenches, hand-to-hand combat, medical care, and soldiers' camaraderie, all described from his innocent point of view. The character trait of faithfulness is emphasized throughout. But yes, it ends like most great dog stories do, so be prepared. It's a fabulous book and a gentle way to introduce World War I to younger students. Next, we have The Unbreakable Code by Sarah Hoagland Hunter. This is a fascinating book about a chapter of World War II that many people don't know. During the war, the United States was sending messages in code, which is a common practice, but the Japanese were having no trouble intercepting and decoding those messages. The U.S. needed a harder code, and they decided to use the Navajo language. Few outsiders had ever learned it, and it had never been written down, so there was no alphabet for the Japanese to discover and use to decode. In this lovely book, a Navajo grandfather tells the story of how he used his Navajo language and character during the war. And in the process, he gives his grandson courage to face his own future. The original code is included in the back of the book. Team Moon, How 400,000 People Landed Apollo 11 on the Moon by Catherine Thimish. Most stories about the moon landing focus just on the astronauts and what happened in outer space, but this book gives a larger perspective and attempts to show that the moon landing was the result of a collaboration of thousands of people. As the author puts it in his note in the back, the stories herein are but snapshots, just a handful of players pulled from the bench of the greatest team ever. Just a few of the 400,000 people. Imagine about 10 large stadiums full of fans who set out to do an impossible task, to land man on the moon and return him safely home. The large photographs and the first-person quotations, along with the look behind the scenes on this epic moment in history, make this book a treasure for all ages. And we have Abby Takes a Stand by Patricia C. McKissick. This is a wonderful book that gives young students an introduction to the struggle for civil rights. It can be difficult to communicate those tense events to an elementary child in an appropriate way, one that helps the struggles seem real and personal, but doesn't completely overwhelm them emotionally. This book hits that helpful balance. When two children find an old restaurant menu in their grandmother's attic, it brings back a flood of memories, and the grandmother, Abby, tells about the year when she was 10, 1960, and how she helped pass out flyers in Nashville, Tennessee, while her cousin and other adults held sit-ins in restaurants and lunch counters to protest segregation. It's a story well told by a Newbery Honor author. These wonderful stories pair nicely with the books that I reviewed in a previous episode and recommended reading to all of your students together. I'll link to that episode in the description, but keep in mind that if those family books are a little too much for your youngest students, you can always set them aside for this first introduction to modern times and read only the titles that I mentioned today. Don't worry about postponing those family books, because with a 4-year history cycle, your young students will come back to studying modern times again in middle school and in high school, and you can easily add those family books then. Next time, I will share some of our favorite titles for middle school students who are ready to learn more about modern times. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.